On May 25, 1961, President John F. Kennedy delivered a historic speech to a joint session of Congress, boldly committing the United States to landing a man on the moon and returning him safely before the end of the 1960s. This ambitious goal, set against the backdrop of the Cold War and the space race with the Soviet Union, galvanized NASA's Apollo program and spurred rapid advancements in space technology. Kennedy's vision inspired national unity and scientific innovation, ultimately leading to the successful Apollo 11 moon landing in 1969.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Random daily fact. On May 22, 1939, Italy and Germany signed the Pact of Steel, a military and political alliance officially named the Pact of Friendship and Alliance, solidifying their cooperation as the Axis powers. This agreement, driven by Mussolini and Hitler, committed both nations to mutual support in times of war, paving the way for Japan's inclusion and shaping the aggressive expansionist policies that fueled World War II. On May 23, 1934, notorious outlaws Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow were killed in a police ambush near Sales, Louisiana. The couple, infamous for their string of bank robberies, murders, and daring escapes during the Great Depression, were tracked down by a posse led by Texas Ranger Frank Hamer. Driving a stolen Ford V8, they were caught off guard on a rural road, where law enforcement unleashed a hail of bullets, ending their crime spree and cementing their legend in American folklore. On May 24, 1899, the first public garage in the United States opened in Boston, Massachusetts, under the operation of W.T. McCullough, marking a significant moment in the early history of the automobile industry. This garage, initially a converted stable, provided parking and basic maintenance for the growing number of motor vehicles, catering to the rising popularity of cars in urban areas. The opening reflected the shift from horse-drawn carriages to automobiles, laying the groundwork for modern urban mobility and the infrastructure that would support America's car culture. On May 26, 2015, hackers breached the U.S. Internal Revenue Service's Get Transcript online application, stealing sensitive personal data, including Social Security numbers and tax records, from approximately 100,000 taxpayers. This cyber attack exposed vulnerabilities in government cybersecurity infrastructure, raising alarms about the protection of personal information and prompting calls for stronger data security measures. On May 27, 1917, the 1917 Code of Canon Law, also known as the Pio Benedictine Code, was a significant reform initiated by Pope Pius X in 1904 and completed under Pope Benedict XV. It aimed to codify the scattered canon laws into a single, comprehensive document, simplifying and organizing ecclesiastical law for the Latin Church.
On May 18, 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte was officially proclaimed Emperor of the French by the French Senate, a defining moment that solidified his grip on power and reshaped European history. This event, formalized through a Senatus Consultum, marked the establishment of the First French Empire, transitioning France from the consulate system, where Napoleon had ruled as first consul since 1799, to a hereditary monarchy under his control.
On May 19, 1999, Star Wars Episode I, The Phantom Menace, the first film in the prequel trilogy of the iconic Star Wars franchise, was released in theaters. Directed by George Lucas, it introduced audiences to a younger Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Queen Amidala, set against the backdrop of a galactic conflict involving the Trade Federation and the Sith. The film was highly anticipated, marking the return of Star Wars to cinemas after a 16-year gap since Return of the Jedi, and it grossed over $1 billion worldwide, despite mixed reviews for its plot and characters.
Random daily facts. On May 20th, 1862, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Homestead Act, a pivotal piece of legislation that offered 160 acres of public land to settlers for a small fee, provided they improved the land by farming or building. This act accelerated westward expansion, enabling thousands of Americans, including freed slaves and immigrants, to claim land in the Great Plains and beyond. profoundly shaping the United States demographic and economic landscape. Random daily facts. On May 21, 1932, Amelia Earhart made history as the first woman to complete a solo non-stop flight across the Atlantic Ocean. Flying her Lockheed Vega from Newfoundland, Canada, she landed in a pasture in Culmore, Northern Ireland, after a grueling 14-hour, 56-minute journey. This feat not only shattered gender barriers in aviation, but also cemented her legacy as a pioneering aviator and an icon of courage and determination.